All right. We are going to kick off our final panel before lunch. We have our VP of Customer Success, Erin McCarthy. She's going to be joined by our friends over at the Voyager Group, and they're going to be talking about content best practices on Amazon. From Voyager, we have Brooke Depke and Liz Welch. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves and their agency when they get up here. But welcome to the stage, team.
All right, guys, we're gonna keep this pithy because I know everyone's hungry, but we're really excited to be able to talk to you guys a little bit more. I think Tom teed us up really well about this idea about Amazon, right? It is the channel that we all need to be on, whether you're a cosmetic brand, an electronic brand, it is an incredibly important channel for us. And so how can content help, right? Like, how can we make sure that this channel is getting what it needs to ensure success? And I could not be more excited to be joined by these incredible ladies who have a wealth of knowledge on Amazon, retail, or all things. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and then we'll get into it.
Thanks, Erin. I'm Liz Welch, the Senior Director of Growth Management, which is account management for Voyager Group. Prior to that, was at Target as a merchant in various roles for almost 10 years before jumping over and helping build Voyager Group. So very passionate about digital merchandising strategies, digital marketing strategies, and delivering great product for our consumer. So happy to be here.
And I'm Brooke Depke. Nice to meet all of you. At Voyager Group, we help brands be successful on Amazon, Walmart Marketplace, Target. We also have a full-service Target brokerage as well, and retail media. And so I am our Director of Merchandising and Operations and also our COO. So really help brands across the entire PDP, across all of our advertising, and touch virtually every piece, front and back end of Amazon.
Amazing. So let's start high level. Like, what is new with Amazon? We're hearing AI, we're hearing short form video, we're hearing a lot. So give us a quick overview, like what is new? What should brands be thinking about right now going into the summer and then Q4?
I'll let Brooke go more in depth on like the AI of it all. But there's a saying, Amazon has a shelf life of 30 days. And it is true more than ever right now. I log on every week and there's something new in there. So they're really trying to figure out, one, AI is moving at a rapid pace. They have all of the data at their fingertips. They should be rolling something out. It's coming. They're testing it. So there's going to be more informative information for sellers on their dashboard on how to make better business decisions. All of that with a grain of salt. It's coming from Amazon. There's going to be incentive for them in all of those recommendations. And so how do you as a brand keep up with these changes, make sure that it's fitting in your P&L and making sense for your brand? And a big piece of that is how it's changing its content and algorithm, even in the last 6 months. So I'll let Brooke speak to that a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, I mean, as we think of the buyer's journey, a couple of the big changes exactly have to do with AI, and that really happens right now. What we're seeing is it's happening in two core ways, and then we're seeing Amazon like build on that with different programs and things that they're coming out with. But like the basics are Cosmo as a new ingredient in the algorithm, which really leverages common sense, common knowledge of, and really helps place as we get into like dynamic search. Like, how do you serve content for that user? So for example, if Liz is searching for like aviator sunglasses, like she's not gonna get sunglasses for little boys, she's not gonna get sunglasses for, and maybe she likes more of a premium product. I'm really just like assuming here, Liz, but you know, so she'll get that content delivered to her. So really when we think about content on Amazon, it's all about like adding the context, like who is this for? And this is both in copy and also in images, because the second part is if you all grab your phones and open your Amazon app, you'll see that little Rufus icon, and that's a lot more prominent now that Inspire is gone. So like they're really pushing Rufus as a new way to search, and that is an Amazon AI personal shopping assistant. That is the front of house. So Rufus is more front of house, and Cosmo is the back-end ingredient in the algorithm now since March of last year. So it's just a little over a year old when they integrated that.
And so when you're thinking about content with AI, what, in your experience, is that back end, that front end? What is it looking for? What is it scanning? Like, how should brands be thinking about making sure? I mean, we think about this at Cohley all the time, right? Like, how everyone's going to ChatGPT to search for whatever they need, or Gemini. Have to plug Gemini as well. Claude, all our friends. Don't want to discriminate, but ultimately, like we think with this Cohley, how do we make sure that we are showing up in those search results, right? Like, brands need to be thinking about this as well. So within Amazon, our most important channel, like, how should brands be thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you really want to pay attention to, again, is context. So this is not the place for your retailer.com, especially Amazon, is not the place for fluffy marketing. Nobody wants that. They don't want to know maybe even that it's like eco-friendly and things like those aren't important search terms, so don't put them in your title. Like, make sure you're keeping high volume search terms there. But when it comes to content, let's take like a candle company, for example. Like generic white tea lights, maybe there's like a bulk 300. What you'd want to look for in terms of static images on your PDPs, you're going to look for, like, you might place that in front of a wedding. Like, it's use cases, it's context, it's like, who is the person that is right for this product? And then Amazon likes to be smarter than you with their technology, and so you might think you're fancy with stuffing keywords, but like, we're actually going to see, I know we'll see keywords go away. That back-end search term field has its days numbered. And so really it's about providing more context, building out your description to the full 2,000 characters where you can, and wink, wink, you can use ChatGPT to help you with that. But really just like providing more context to serve the content in to customers who have way higher intent to purchase that particular product.
That's such an interesting way to think about it, right? Like, tea lights are a great example. Like, when do you use those? You use them for a wedding. So I think it like really behooves brands to take a step back and say, like, when are people using our product? When are they really going to make that purchase? And because Amazon is so high intent, people don't go to Amazon without an intent to purchase, right? So like, you have them in that moment. How are you making sure that they're clicking add to cart, buy now? And I think that imagery is like really spot on.
And like, listen to your customers. Look at the reviews. What are the top reviews saying? What are the negative reviews saying? And I know Tom was alluding to this earlier, but like, how do you get on top of that with your content, with your, not only your copy, but with your images, your video, anticipating their questions? We like to look at the suggested Rufus questions that appear on the PDP just below your image carousel.
Oh, that's so smart.
So smart, right? And then you just proactively answer that with content. So that's like a great way to start, like, what would my brief look like?
Yeah, so if you're a brand at, and you're looking at Amazon, like, what that might look like is looking at those reviews, seeing what's negative, seeing what's positive, looking at those Rufus questions and making sure that you have both photo and video to kind of have both of those cases. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, which is interesting, Amazon's AI does not scan video. Is that correct? Currently.
Currently not video, but Rufus does scan images. Okay. So that's important.
So that's interesting, right? Because I feel like Amazon, with the TikTok of it all, was very much focused on short form video. They had an Inspire feed where it was bringing like a TikTok like shopping experience into the Amazon app. They have posts, and well, those things are still around. I think that it seems like they're definitely deprioritizing that in sort of lieu, kind of in more favor for like some of these AI tools. So I guess my question is, like, as a brand, is short form video still important for Amazon given those changes?
Yes. So like Matt was saying, especially in advertising, that's where we're seeing you're going to see your biggest bang for your buck for those short form videos. You have about 6 seconds to tell your story. But on those short form videos, even on the PDP, like they were mentioning in the last panel, we're getting extreme engagement on like 40 to a minute videos where they're going over product reviews. People are now just like, tell me more about this product. I can't touch and feel it. I'm not at Target. Tell me what I need to know in order to put this in my cart. So short form video, absolutely, but then also long form. So I think the last panel hit the nail on the head. Like, you need both, and they serve different purposes. And so it's more what we work with our brand on is, what is your top priority for this specific product set or this variation in this PDP? If it's conversion, then we would recommend X, Y, and Z in terms of content. If it's for awareness, and this is really a basket building type item, then you're gonna want other type of content. You want to show how to build the basket or the regimen with that content. So it's really kind of dependent on what the brand's priority is or what we see as the opportunity on that variation or PDP.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. And again, like Amazon is going to fill space on pages. So if you don't have a lot of consumer videos,
Someone else is there.
someone else is there, right? And so ultimately, like as a brand, and what I love about this type of content, it's actually one of my favorite Cohley use cases that I see our brands using, is they will make this kind of like shopper-like content. It is not pretty. It is not on brand. You would not post this on your socials. You're not going to post it on TikTok, but it is literally just a person talking about the product. It's unboxing. You know, let's say it's something that's fragile. You want to know that it's going to come in a box, that it's not going to come in 6 pieces when it gets to my house. I want to know exactly your point. Like for cosmetics, like the color, the texture, how it feels when you put it on your skin. And I think these types of videos are incredibly important. And you know, there's all of these stats on Amazon, but one that I love when it comes to this type of video is that it decreases returns by 40%. So we can talk about how it increases conversion all you want, but this idea that like you're not getting a return, to reduce that number is huge, especially if it's like a high ticket, high expense item, right? Like those returns are expensive. So I love that stat, and I love that you guys are still saying like there's a place for this within the ecosystem.
There was one thing a few questions back that I did want to touch on for brands, where it's talking about AI and the contextual-based search, and even how people, yes, they're searching for products on Amazon. That's still predominantly keyword-based, and so Amazon has not adapted to, if you put in like a whole phrase, they're going to still just latch on to keywords. But on ChatGPT, they're really leveraging like Reddit and Pinterest. And so the more you can work with micro influencers to get virality around getting your item added to a top 10 list, that's where ChatGPT is going to start pulling from. Yeah, they're going to pull from the reviews on Amazon and things, but they're looking for more cultural rather than retail information to give you that list before you can start sponsoring on the platform.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think when we were, we've done this before, by the way. This is not our first rodeo, but it's our first time live. But one of the things that we've talked about before is the importance of posting on social, or kind of like on TikTok and on Instagram, to drive to Amazon. Can you, and again, it's all connected, it's all an ecosystem, but can you guys talk to people? Because I find that when I tell brands this, they're surprised.
Yes, because it used to be different. So if you think pre-COVID, you would have your Target strategy, your Walmart strategy, your CVS strategy, your Amazon strategy. Because consumers weren't fully blurring the lines. COVID completely tore down all the walls. Everyone was digital first. Great. It pushed us into the 4th wave of retail. We love it. But we really didn't adapt from a brand standpoint how they should be looking at their marketing strategy. And so I was a former buyer at Target, and so how we like to present it to our clients is, I need to know what you're doing nationally. I need to know what you're doing for Target, Walmart, etc. I want to know what you're doing nationally, so then we should just mimic that on Amazon, Amazonify it for conversion, but it needs to be a holistic message from your brand, because then that goes back to the authenticity. Like, they trust you, they see you're telling the same message, you're going after the same important values for your company brand product that they're seeing across all of your other retailers and social channels. So you should be thinking of it as your brand first, and then you can tailor that to your retailer or wherever the content is, but you should be thinking more holistically.
Totally. And then Brooke, like I know we've talked about this, like even just like tactically, or just like a little bit more like how does it impact search, right? Like if someone posts a video on TikTok about your product, like what does that do for me on Amazon in terms of like search or ranking or anything along those lines?
Yeah, Liz might want to talk a bit more about the affiliates program and like the brand attribution links and things, but yeah, it literally drives the boost in the algorithm because it's being recognized as an organic sale, which Amazon loves, that you're bringing traffic to them. And I know Matt had said this earlier, but sessions are down year over year 20 to 40%, depending on the category, which is brutal. And again, like sales are not down, but it's the sessions. So like, what are the different ways and where are we meeting the customer where they're at?
Now more than ever, driving to Amazon is important, or having a national brand that has a call to action for all of your retail channels is more important than ever. We're also seeing that older forms that people said are dead is actually driving traffic. So content on traditional radio or streaming radio is doing incredibly well. Socials, yeah, they're doing well, but we're getting saturated. And just like Amazon's getting saturated. And so we've collectively decided digital is the only way. Well, the brands that are now starting to see going back to more of a analog type marketing, they're seeing huge branded search volume lifts on Amazon because they're touching a new audience that's not fatigued.
That's so interesting. And I think that when I think about like the success stories from brands on Cohley, when I think about Amazon, like, right, like videos on those pages, yes, like we're seeing time on page increase, we're seeing conversion increase, we're seeing returns decrease. But really, a lot of the success stories, and this kind of goes with this idea of like the Amazon affiliates play. You know, we'll have brands who will be posting on TikTok and the content is very specific. It will say within the content and within the caption, get it on Amazon, right? And we had a brand, a hair care brand, who we did a campaign with, and we created attribution links for all of the creators. And we met, 3 weeks after the campaign had kicked off, and we were seeing very little sales with the attribution links, and we were like, oh boy. So, we took a step back and we talked it through, and, 3 days later, she comes back, our brand contact comes back, and she's like, okay, check this out. And essentially what happened was she tracked traffic from when the creator started posting, and huge spikes in traffic, huge. And there was nothing else that they were doing that supported Amazon. And they also saw huge spikes in sales. And they saw those spikes in traffic and sales, a halo effect 2 weeks after the last post posted. So what that tells us is that people, and I am 100% guilty of this, when I'm scrolling TikTok, I'm not shopping. It's 11:30 p.m. I'm supposed to be asleep. Like, I am watching, I am there to be entertained. And sometimes I'll see something, a lot of times I'll see something and I'll screenshot it, right? I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to remember that. And then, when I'm like looking for that new pair of jeans, or I'm looking for that new, whatever it is, I'll go back through my camera roll and I will Google search whatever the product is that I saw that I liked. And so Amazon is reading that. And I always go to Amazon because I can't live without 2-day shipping. And Amazon is reading that as organic search, right? It's just organic because there's no last click attribution, there's no click, there's no link. But I would not have known about that content if it wasn't on TikTok. And so the moral of the story there is attribution links, affiliate links, whether that's for TikTok, Like My, Shop My, are really, really important. But because the buyer's journey is so, to steal a term, drunk, last click attribution doesn't work anymore. And again, I could tell you 20 stories about brands who have thought affiliate campaigns failed. But ultimately, when they actually look at the metrics that are important throughout that time, they actually see huge spikes. So that's like a good example of how it all fits together.
Yeah, you should be tracking your macro traffic, branded traffic, rather than just attribution, because you're exactly right. It's very flawed. And even if someone does it perfectly, where they click on it and they go to Amazon, it's even flawed if they jump to the app versus purchasing in the Safari experience. So Amazon knows it's flawed. Track your bigger metrics.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else that we should be thinking about? We talked about short-term video, AI. We talked about images. Is there anything else that you're thinking about or recommending to brands thinking through this funnel when it comes to Amazon?
Yeah, one of the biggest roadblocks we see when we work with brands is that their content, and this is like a room full of marketers, so hear this message from your beloved Amazon management teams, who probably don't get as much attention from you as they are hoping. But like having your assets organized, potentially even like by placement in funnel, but like accessible. One of the things we love to work with Cohley on is, or the fact that we love working with Cohley is that the content is yours to use in as many places as you'd like. And you've got to fill that up on Amazon, whether it's in your A+ content, on your storefront, in your PDP image carousel, on your ads. And so it's there, but it's also your D2C. Like, do not neglect Shopify, which is where ChatGPT is pulling recommendations. And so Rufus also, by the way, scans your Shopify site. So do not forget to keep as much content in there as you can. But that's what I would say is like, having a way to when you're putting together your campaign strategy, your marketing strategy and dollars, really considering your retailer.com and how those assets can get shared across. Like, do not let them go die in a folder.
Quick question. Do you think, okay, I'm a brand on Cohley. I generated content for Amazon. Can I use it on my, like, legally, you know, in terms of like the content being yours to use? Yes. But from a strategy perspective, use it on Target, use it on, like, would you recommend that?
What's going to convert on Amazon? This is what's going to convert on Target. Target amplifies UGC even more than others, especially if you're using the hashtag Target style. They can do that automatically for you. Target is a more browse-based platform. I know we're not talking about Target.
We're not talking about her.
I know, I love her. So it's a more browse-based platform. So it's better for discovery. And so if you think about your content strategy that way, you can have more of discovery-based content on Target than Amazon's conversion.
That makes a ton of sense. Amazing. We'll do a quick Q&A just in case people have questions, but it is lunchtime, so I want to be mindful of that. But, you know, we're here if people are just really hungry. A hungry crowd. Perfect. We'll see you guys at lunch.